South Africa could be heading for a major constitutional showdown. President Cyril Ramaphosa has filed an urgent court application to halt Parliament's impeachment process over the Phala Phala scandal. Is this a fight for accountability, political survival, or a defining test of South Africa's democracy? Stay tuned as we break it all down. And before we begin, please like this video and subscribe for more updates.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has filed an urgent court application to halt Parliament's impeachment process against him regarding the Phala Phala scandal. This now sets the stage for a major constitutional showdown over accountability and the separation of powers in South Africa. So where's the line between Parliament's independence and judicial oversight, and what precedent could this set for the future? And joining us now to share their insights on this development is constitutional law expert, Advocate Lufuna Nevondwe from the University of Limpopo. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Advocate, and welcome to The Full View.
Good afternoon.
Now, Section 89 allows for the removal of a president on grounds of serious violation of the Constitution, serious misconduct, or inability to perform the duties of office. So, in your expert reading, does the Phala Phala matter involving undeclared foreign currency hidden in a couch, a concealed theft, and even a suppressed police investigation meet the threshold of serious misconduct as envisaged by the framers of the Constitution?
So at this stage, it's very difficult to say that, because the president has interdicted the implementation of the judgment, which is the impeachment processes, which are ongoing. So he went to court on an urgent basis to halt the proceedings of the impeachment process. So because he has filed a review, which will be heard in September. So until we hear the outcome of the review process, we cannot say that he's guilty or not guilty, because it will depend on the outcome of the review process. Because if the review process decide to set aside the Section 89 independent panel report, it means that that will be the end of the matter. But if the review process failed, it means that the Parliament must then proceed with the impeachment processes, because the Section 89 panel found that he has the case to answer. So which means that the impeachment committee will do its work, which will be the investigation, will call witnesses. They will also call the president to hear evidence. And after the determination, or after hearing evidence, they will then make recommendation to the National Assembly whether to impeach the president or not to impeach the president, depending on the evidence which will have been presented. So at this stage, it's very difficult to conclude before you hear the outcome of the review processes itself.
All right. Now, Advocate, the Constitutional Court in May found that Parliament actually acted irrationally and unconstitutionally in December 2022 when it voted against referring the Section 89 panel report, to an impeachment committee. So in your view, does that ruling carry any implicit endorsement of the panel's findings against Ramaphosa, or does it speak purely to procedural compliance?
The ruling was about the procedural compliance.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the merits of the case. The merits remained, because what the Constitutional Court judgment says, it says that the process which Parliament has followed was irrational and unlawful, and which means that Parliament was supposed to have considered the impeachment process, which they are now considering, which was the procedural aspect of it. So they didn't determine whether the president is guilty or not guilty, which is the substantive part. So the review process itself will look at the substantive process. Whether the president will succeed in the review process, we cannot say at this stage. We'll have to wait for the outcome of the review process. The president has articulated various grounds for review. Whether those grounds will be able to convince the court is another matter.
Now, South Africa's constitutional design places significant power in the executive. And critics also argue Section 89 was deliberately made difficult to trigger, and also requiring a two-thirds majority in the National Assembly for removal. So is our constitutional framework adequately designed to hold a president accountable when the president's own party controls parliament?
Yes, remember our constitutional democracy relies on the principle of the separation of powers.
Right.
Which then have three arms of government, which is the executive, the judiciary, and parliament. And these arms of government, they have particular functions which they perform. When the other arms of government is not working, the other arms of government will work. So in other words, there are checks and balances here. We are seeing the judiciary taking a decision to ensure that the president is held accountable, which is good. But the process itself is not an easy process, because for you to remove the president, there are grounds. There must be a serious violation of the Constitution and the law, and there must be an inability to perform the functions. And all of this, for even though you have found all of this to have happened, you need two-thirds majority, which means that out of the 400 members of parliament, you need 267 who will vote in favor of the impeachment of the president. So, which is a very difficult process, because those numbers are not easy number to find, especially when you have an elections when you don't have the outright winner.
Yeah. Now, Advocate,
when you do not have an...
Advocate, we're out of time, yes, unfortunately, but I just need to pick your brain on this particular matter. I mean, the Speaker and the committee chairperson declined to pause the process voluntarily when President Ramaphosa first signaled his legal challenge. So now he's seeking a court order. Does this sequence of going to the High Court to interdict a process that the Constitutional Court just ordered create some sort of, I would call it a constitutional conflict between two courts? And how would that be resolved?
It's a right thing to do. Okay. Remember, the Constitutional Court was very clear in its judgment. It says that the Parliament can only halt the impeachment process unless there is a review, unless the Section 89 independent panel report is set aside. So at this stage, the review process is ongoing. It has not yet, it is being considered, it will be heard in September 2026. So yeah, it is President constitutional right to interdict the implementation of the impeachment processes, because okay, it will create irreparable harm to his constitutional rights, and it might even damage his reputation. So it's reasonable to do so that you do not have an impeachment process which is going forward. What if, when the review process is concluded, the court decided to set aside the Section 89 independent panel report? It will have caused more harm to the president and more harm to his dignity, more harm to also his reputation. Okay, so it is logical.
You will recall that back in 2022, the ANC used its parliamentary majority to vote against adopting the Ngcobo panel report, and effectively shielding Ramaphosa. So now that the president is using the courts to shield himself from the consequences of that constitutional court ruling, is this not a pattern of using whichever institution is most convenient to escape accountability?
We cannot say that at this stage, because remember, we need to hear the outcome of the review process, because there are grounds which the president has laid it down. But at the same time, you need to have a president who is accountable to the Constitution and yes, accountable to the people of South Africa. So Parliament must hold the executive accountable. So when there are these prolonged legal processes, it also affects accountability, because when is the president going to be accountable? But at the same time, we need to respect the rule of law, because if we are not going to respect the rule of law, we are more likely to violate the constitutional right of the president. So we need to balance between his constitutional right and also the rule of law. So I believe that the principle of separation of powers, which is the foundation of a constitutional democracy, is at its work now.
Yeah.
There is checks and balances. These are the sign of the checks and balances which has been articulated in the principle of separation of powers.
All right, Advocate Lufuno, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
All right, that was Advocate Lufuno Nevondwe from the University of Limpopo sharing his insights on developments that President Cyril Ramaphosa has filed an urgent court application to halt Parliament's impeachment process against him regarding the Phala Phala matter.